I want to now introduce our first speaker. Eternity Hausen is the CEO and founder of Enlighten Mental Health, which she founded in 2020. Passionate about making a meaningful contribution to the mental health landscape in Australia, Eternity left the army to create Australia's first online practice offering psychedelic integration services. Eternity served 15 years at the Australian Defence Force, working in national security, and is now a reservist. Eternity also consults to Reset Mind Sciences with Dr. Stephen Bright and Dr. Renee Harvey. Reset Mind Sciences is the first Australian company to be granted a license to grow psilocybin mushrooms or psilocybin-containing mushrooms in Australia. With experience in both public and private sectors, Eternity has worked on military acquisition projects and was part of Australia's first air-to-air refueling capability project. What a wide and strange range of skills you have, Eternity. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It always sounds very weird having my bio read back to me, but thank you so much for having me. There's probably a lot of people here who are going, well, how did she end up leaving the military, and why is this person working in the psychedelic space? And what wasn't on there is that I also studied psychology. So I've always had an interest in mental health. And while I'm not a current practicing psychologist, I do have a particular interest in mental health, and in particular, psychedelic integration and harm reduction services. So that's why I'm in this space. And I've also worked with a lot of military colleagues of mine and veterans who, I don't like the term treatment resistant, but people who have not found a particularly good outcome or had a great benefit through traditional therapies. And I have always been interested in psychedelics. So I thought, why not set up Enlighten Mental Health? And so here we are. And I'm here tonight with almost the entire team of Enlighten Mental Health. So if you want to go through and you'll see the faces on the screen, but you'll be meeting Dr. Shevaugn Johnson and Meg Wilson tonight, and another few people. But as you were talking, I was just thinking, wow, the garden states looks amazing. That range looks incredible. And I'm going to click on that link after this and definitely look at going. And I'm also looking forward to, I'm glad you called it the Alice in Wonderland mushroom, because that is what a lot of people think of when they think of that particular mushroom. So I'm looking forward to that video afterwards. And I think for those people who are not watching this live, hello to everybody who is, and I'm so glad that you're here. We're all very excited. For those who might be watching this after, and this is a question I've been getting a lot lately when I've been taking phone calls, is ketamine. What's ketamine? Isn't that a horse tranquilizer? Well, I'm looking forward to everyone's thoughts in the comments and what you think of ketamine after this, because it's commonly known as a tranquilizer. But as we know, there are some really incredible therapeutic benefits, which Meg and Shevaugn will talk about tonight. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen, as I do have a few things to go through, and we have a presentation for you. What I'm going to go through tonight is just a little overview of the topics that Shevaugn and Meg will be discussing. Shevaughn's going to really go through the clinical side of ketamine, or ketamine, however you want to say it. So we're going to talk about ketamine pathways, the history, usage, and evidence for ketamine therapy. And Meg's going to talk more about the therapeutic alliance, harm reduction, and a topic that's been coming up a lot lately, a lot in the psychedelic space, which is about consent. Can you consent to sexual intercourse or interactions or relations or any of those things while you're having a psychedelic experience? So stay tuned for Meg. Meg's presentation. We'll be going through this. Meg's also going to be talking about recovery and anti-oppressive practices, and also how to choose a good therapist, because there are a lot of people out there offering harm reduction and psychedelic integration. So we want to make sure that you're set up with the best knowledge, best evidence, and things to look for in a therapist. So Meg will be talking about that. Okay, so mental health support, that's what we do. We're dedicated to providing top-notch care, and we offer a range of different services, beginning with clinical psychology. That's Dr. Shevaugn Johnson, and we've just brought on board 2 new provisional psychologists. Emily is on, I'm not sure if she's on screen at the moment. I can't see her, but Emily Hetherington is a provisional psychologist who's beginning with us very shortly. And if you're watching this back on YouTube, she's probably already started. And Emily, I hope you're smiling or waving now if people can see you on the screen. We also offer clinical counselling, which is Meg, and of course, psychedelic integration services and harm reduction services, which is what you'll hear a lot about tonight and on our own personal YouTube channel. Okay, so I'll move now to introducing you to our wonderful team. This team has my absolute full confidence, and I was speaking with my executive assistant, Diane, today. If anyone watching is a client of ours, you would have spoken with Diane. She's the lady who answers all of the phone calls and all of the tricky questions we get. And we were talking about hiring and how we do hiring. Every single one of our therapists and one of the Enlighten team, everyone has my full confidence. Everyone who works for us is super confident, but what is most important to me after competence is that they're wonderful human beings. So we've got Dr. Shevaugn Johnson, who's our clinical psychologist who's here tonight. Our clinical counsellor, Meg Wilson. I love that picture of you, Meg, on the beach, loving it. Jake Payne, who isn't here with us tonight, but may be watching on YouTube. He's our provisional psychologist. And, of course, Emily Hetherington, who's also a provisional psychologist. We've also got myself down the bottom, Alex Hausen, who's a director of Enlighten. Alex, I'm not sure if you're on screen, but I know you're certainly here tonight, so give us a wave if you're there. We've got Diane, who you'll speak to on the phone, and we've also got Mitch and Maya in our reception team who answer our phones as well. So our therapists offer evidence-based services to the general community. So we see a wide range of clients, but we're more than just a mental health clinic. We offer high-quality services and deliver them with compassion and care. And as I said, each one of these people are wonderful human beings, so rest assured that you're in good hands. Now, we are a veteran-owned and operated clinic, and what this does mean is that we sometimes provide pathways for our DVA and current serving ADF members to get into ketamine treatment, which is a huge, huge step for DVA to offer that. And I'm talking about the Department of Veteran Affairs, if you're not sure what DVA is. And we've set up a pathway for current ADF members to access these services as well. They are for treatment-resistant depression and PTSD. So that is just a wonderful thing that we can now offer to our colleagues and in the military. And one of the things that I should have mentioned earlier when I was introducing Emily Hetherington is Emily is also a co-founder of Enlighten, and she's currently serving in the Navy and just somehow has time to be a psychologist as well. So Emily has this lived experience. So for anyone out there who might be current or ex-serving military and you're thinking, I just want to talk to someone who gets it and gets the lingo, Shevaugn Johnson and Emily, they're your people. Shevaughn's got a lot of experience with military clients, and Emily herself has that lived experience of being in the military. So as I said, we're a veteran-owned and operated clinic, and we do have those pathways and we can assist people to get into those programs. What I'm going to do now is pass across to Dr. Shevaugn Johnson. I'm going to stop talking and Shevaugn is going to talk about ketamine-assisted therapy. So I'll pass you across.
Thank you. All right. So ketamine is a dissociative psychedelic analog of phencyclidine that was first synthesized by someone by the name of Calvin Stevens in 1962. So in the 70s, I ran trial ketamine as an adjunct to psychotherapy in a myriad of mental health populations. So this included things like depression, anxiety, hypochondriasis, which we now refer to as illness, anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and conversion reactions at sub-anesthetic doses of 0.4 to 0.6 milligrams per kilograms, while other countries were investigating its use in personality disorders and alcoholism. Ketamine is considered an uncompetitive NMDA glutamate receptor antagonist and partial agonist in lower doses. It also interacts with serotonin, GABA, dopamine, opioid, and cholinergic receptors. Ketamine is naturally racemic with 50-50 S and R ketamine and has to be split into S or R in a laboratory. And while clinicians have been finding some minimal differences, S-ketamine is said to have 4 times the affinity for the NMDA receptors. It is also said to be a more powerful anesthetic, whereas R-ketamine may have more potent and enduring antidepressant effects and fewer side effects. Ketamine is currently being used as an off-label treatment for depression. However, the nasal spray in conjunction with antidepressants is a current remedy for treatment-resistant depression. In March 2021, S-ketamine nasal spray with an antidepressant was approved by the Australian Therapeutic Goods Administration for treatment-resistant depression. But of course, more research is needed to explore its efficacy, side effects, and abuse potential. Ketamine is typically delivered in lozenge form intramuscularly or via infusion. Ketamine's effectiveness lies in several factors. Depending upon dose, it promotes a timeout from ordinary, usual mind, relief from negativity, and an openness to the expansiveness of mind with access to self in a larger sense. These effects enhance a patient's ability to engage in meaningful psychotherapy during and after administration. More specifically, there are 3 overall therapeutic paradigms of using ketamine, which depend on dosing and the depth of experience. The first being the microdosing range, which falls within a medical framework. The second is considered a psycholytic and pathogenic mini-dosing framework. And the third is a psychedelic framework in which deeper mind-altering effects are produced. So meta-analyses comparing a single infusion of ketamine versus placebo or active placebo for major depressive disorder and bipolar depression found that compared to the placebo groups, ketamine significantly and rapidly reduced depression scores. Another meta-analysis investigating the use of ketamine for depression found that a single dose rapidly reduced suicidal ideation, with results lasting up to 1 week. Using a medicalized model in which no psychotherapeutic support is offered, most of literature on ketamine has found its effects to last no longer than 1 week. For example, ketamine has also demonstrated some evidence of efficacy in populations with post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. When used as a standalone treatment, ketamine did not produce a lasting reduction in PTSD symptoms. However, when combined with psychotherapy, the results were more enduring, lasting approximately 1 month. So this finding really attests to the importance of combining psychotherapy with ketamine to assist in moving beyond a narrow medicalized model towards a more holistic, evidence-based psychotherapeutic paradigm. Moreover, psychedelics have been found to create a hyperplastic window of opportunity that appears to render previously held rigid beliefs more amenable to restructuring. This creates an opportunity for therapists to more effectively implement psychotherapeutic interventions aimed at facilitating lasting change. The literature on ketamine-assisted psychotherapy has found the psychedelic effects of ketamine to be of therapeutic benefit when adequate psychotherapeutic support and integration are provided following ketamine treatment. Integration is a key component of the psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy model, common in MDMA and psilocybin research. It involves the use of harm reduction, evidence-based therapies that assist clients to work through challenging psychedelic experiences and to integrate beneficial insights into normal waking consciousness while drawing upon evidence-based models. Given the psychedelic properties of ketamine at higher doses and that some research has failed to detect significant group differences when ketamine was given at lower doses, it would be prudent to consider the intentional induction of altered states of consciousness using ketamine and to combine these effects with evidence-based psychotherapies delivered by trained therapists. That's it for me. We'll pass it along to Meg.
Thanks so much, Eternity and Shevaugn. It was really lovely to hear the introduction and the very informative presentation. So trust plays a pivotal role in the therapeutic relationship between clients and practitioners in all forms of therapy. Anyone who has ever attended therapy knows all too well that the feeling of trust and safety with a therapist is an intuitive one and not necessarily guaranteed with each practitioner that you see. For the purposes of psychedelic-assisted therapy, knowing that you are in the safe and understanding hands of a professional who is aware of your goals and expectations means that you can enter an altered state with a sense of security and safety. The field of psychedelic-assisted therapy, which also includes ketamine-assisted therapy, has existed only for a short time in the field of Western medicine. I'd also like to be mindful of the fact that psychedelics have played a pivotal role in human cultures for thousands of years prior to this. As a result, it might be difficult to find a therapist who actually is effectively trained and understands the psychedelic journey. Present company obviously excluded. While it might not be appropriate for a practitioner to share their own personal history associated with psychedelics, it is perfectly okay to inquire about their comfort and knowledge of the topic and their ability to hold space for the process. The experience of ketamine can create a sense of expansiveness, openness, and a loss of clarity during the time of an infusion. This is a time when the presence of a trusting figure who holds your well-being as a priority enhances the sense of safety and security throughout the entire process. Therapeutic support facilitated by professionals who strive to meet all of the following standards for the safest and most effective care. Anyone who claims to provide psychedelic-assisted therapeutic support should not only be familiar with the following standards, but should display active efforts towards including them in their own practice, no matter what the setting or situation is. First up is an understanding of harm reduction principles as they apply to psychedelic-assisted therapy. This means that your therapist should have enough knowledge and understanding of various mind-altering substances to help you make an informed decision. They should definitely not encourage or persuade you to consume any substance and must hold a non-judgmental stance towards your decisions. This also means that your therapist should not provide any information about sourcing or dosage of any psychedelics, as this violates the harm reduction principles. To the best of their ability, your therapist should remain compassionately supportive of your life, your choices, your beliefs, your identity, your worldview, and your gender and your sexuality. In the context of harm reduction, your therapist is obligated to provide you psychoeducation regarding potential risks and benefits, and clarification around the myths versus the truth behind various substances. Additionally, you might receive practical knowledge regarding access to testing kits and other resources for further information. It is only in a few very specific circumstances that a therapist may hold a biased stance oriented around safety, which broadly includes the risk of harm to yourself or to someone else, including children and family members. Mandatory reporting requirements are specifically related to endangerment, abuse, and neglect of a child, and violence towards other adults and yourself. Your therapist or care provider cannot report you for substance use, and you are protected in the confidentiality agreement between yourself and them. Consent also plays a vital role in your therapeutic relationship. And I want to be really clear about this. Consent cannot be legally given from within a confused, fearful, or emotionally or physically vulnerable state, or while under the effects of any mind-altering substance. Freedom of choice requires safety, clarity, and full understanding. Under absolutely no circumstance should anyone who holds the title of therapist, guide, shaman, leader, support person, psychologist, psychiatrist, psychotherapist, counselor, practitioner, or any other word, anybody in a position of responsibility for your well-being ever seek to cross your physical boundaries while in a therapeutic space or during a psychedelic experience. I also want to be very clear that a person cannot function as both a therapist and a lover or partner or friend for an individual. Those two things cannot exist at the same time. It is currently legal in Australia for practitioners to attend to a patient during a psychedelic experience in very limited clinical circumstances, such as the emerging ketamine-assisted therapy. This is expected to change in time, and with it will come a variety of views and opinions regarding boundaries during psychedelic-assisted therapy. This is also going to attract the attention of individuals who engage in predatory behavior under the guise of healing or providing a therapeutic experience. This is already happening across Australia, and also in extremely risky situations where individuals seeking support are traumatized by the actions of a miseducated facilitator, and then they hesitate to report that abuse out of fear of consequences themselves due to the consumption of currently illegal substances. Whoever it is that you trust to be with you during a psychedelic experience must have your comfort and safety as their priority, whether this is a loved one or a professional, once the legal framework in Australia allows for it. Ultimately, the therapeutic space should be a refuge for you to explore yourself and your life free of bias, influence, and judgment. While it is normal for there to be some discomfort and difficult emotions during a therapy session, it is worth paying attention if you begin to feel pressured to do or feel anything that you don't agree with or that you don't feel ready for. On a mild level, this might be something you're able to address with your therapist and adjust. On a more serious level, this is a sign that the relationship is no longer therapeutic and potentially harmful or coercive. You always have the right to end a therapeutic relationship at any time, even if it is against the advice of your therapist. In Australia, there's a national recovery model framework intended for use in all sectors of mental health. That means that the client is at the center of their own recovery journey, however that looks. For the practice of psychedelic integration, this approach aligns well and allows for the client receiving integration services to take ownership of their own story and interpretations of their own psychedelic experience. A therapist trained and experienced in psychedelic integration is prepared to explore any feelings, thoughts, insights, or interpretations associated with psychedelic experience, and they understand sometimes the ineffable nature of your personal experience. Their job is to support you to feel empowered, connected, hopeful, to make real meaning and have a sense of identity. Dr. Gave Ansara is leading the way in Australia for the widespread adoption of anti-oppressive practices in all helping industries, and more specifically in the therapeutic relationship. Anti-oppressive practice prioritizes cultural humility, a concept that combines commitment to lifelong learning about other people's lived experiences with ongoing critical self-reflection about one's own assumptions, biases, and privileges. If you're listening today and you have the sense that you might be in a toxic or harmful therapeutic relationship, please reach out to 1-800-RESPECT, that's 1-800-RESPECT, for anonymous advice and direction towards resources and support that are going to be relevant to your local region, no matter where you are in Australia. So it's our hope that this webinar has provided you with a greater understanding about ketamine-assisted psychotherapy and the importance of finding an appropriate therapist and the frameworks designed to protect you throughout your entire experience, no matter what it is. Before we move to questions, I'd really love to thank the EGA for hosting all of us this evening and for the wonderful work that they're doing for the psychedelic space. Thank you very much. If you'd like to contribute to their ongoing efforts, please visit the EGA website to make a donation.
Thank you for all of your questions tonight in the comment section, and all of our commenters are sending their gratitude towards the team at Enlighten Mental Health to thank you for the fantastic work you do. So thank you very much for joining us tonight and presenting on ketamine-assisted psychotherapy.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been absolutely wonderful. And the questions have been great tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you.